Well, thank you very much for asking me, and it's been really nice to meet those of you who I have met of the prior community, as somebody called it to me tonight. And Martin and I have been asked to just give a few words on what it was like being Arthur Prior's children, which wasn't necessarily a straightforward business. I don't know, you can possibly imagine. But we had, early on, we had quite an unusual childhood. When Martin and I were quite small children, there was a period in our lives in 1954 when Arthur had to bring us up more or less on his own. He was, at the time, very busy with his work as well, obviously, and I don't know how he managed this. But Mary and Martin and I all had tuberculosis, and Mary was sent off to a sanatorium, but she and Arthur were determined that us children should be cared for at home. Otherwise, I think they were concerned we would be institutionalised. So during working hours, there were various nurses and helpers, but Arthur spent a great deal of time looking after us himself and amusing us in his own special way. He used to tell us stories and drew lots of pictures for us along the lines of the ones you see in First Things in Logic. He really enjoyed drawing pictures, and I think even as a child himself, he told stories in pictures. It was just something that he did. And because his first love was logic, he tried to teach us a little bit about logic. It just came into everything. And it's almost certainly at this time, 1954, that he wrote First Things in Logic, when I was 4. So at the age of 4, I was pretty resistant to being taught logic. I thought it was subversive and confusing. And I used to try to beat Arthur up to silence him, because it was about the only thing I could do, really, was just to kick him and punch him. Of course, he thought this was very funny. After Mary's death, I was able to read some of the letters that Arthur wrote to her in the sanatorium, because he was writing constantly, which they're quite private letters. And I've got some extracts from one of the letters here, which I think illustrates quite well the kind of thing that went on. And it's a bit confusing, and it's a bit argument in progress. And it's obvious that Arthur is continuing the conversation that he's had with Mary the last time he saw her in the sanatorium. But anyway, for what it's worth, here we go. Friday, 21/5/54. Darling, I posted quite a long letter to you not long ago, and now I'm in bed starting another, and you won't get this till after I've seen you, but that doesn't matter. There really is plenty to write about that will last past a visit, if only one is in the mood, so as to speak, and I am at present. You know that little passage between Anne and me about nobody and Anne Lyle? Anne Lyle was obviously somebody who was helping to look after us. Little Anne's insistence that you say nobody except Anne Lyle, and not nobody and Anne Lyle. That you say, but you say Miss Brown and Anne Lyle, and not Miss Brown except Anne Lyle. One mealtime I told Anne Lyle about this and added the comment, you see, that shows that Anne isn't cut out for a philosopher, but only for a mere linguist. All she thinks of is the mere senseless conventions and customs of speech, not about how it would be rational and consistent to speak. I was trying to get a bite, but didn't get one. But I'm quite convinced that there are students who would swallow this line of talk. And of course it's the reverse of the truth. The way that Anne puzzles it out makes it clear that she finds it not only right, customary, correct, but reasonable to say nobody except, but, Miss Brown and of course it is reasonable. But this little byplay of mine brings out something about grammaticism that the grammaticists themselves haven't noticed. There's a distinction between mere correctness and reasonableness in ways of talking, and it's conceivable that the two should conflict. that a correct way of speaking should be unreasonable, and a reasonable way of speaking incorrect. But behind this correct way of speaking, there's usually a reason, as there is in the case of nobody except and Miss Brown and. And it's because this is so, and only because this is so, that it's philosophically profitable to inquire what is the correct way of saying a thing. He then continues the discussion for several pages, interjecting 3:30 a.m. I've just got Anne a new hottie, hot water bottle. And later, this isn't about nobody in the sense which Miss Brown is in the kitchen, it's about Miss Brown. As Anne Pryor says, nobody is in the kitchen just means the kitchen is empty. Finally, the following morning, he writes, 22/5/54, had the most abominable dreams not long after writing the above. May tell you about them tomorrow. I'm not surprised his dreams were a bit spoiled, to be honest. And I think now I'm going to hand over to Martin.
Right.